used to think the worst thing my sister ever did to me was borrow my clothes without asking and stretch them out like she owned them. I was wrong. The worst thing she ever did was teach me that blood doesn't mean boundaries, and that sometimes the only way to survive is to vanish. The first time I realized something was wrong, it was the smell. I came home from work on a Tuesday night, 12 hours at a downtown marketing firm, heels killing my feet, brain fried. And the moment I unlocked my apartment door, I smelled cigarette smoke. I don't smoke. Never have. I stood there, 1 foot still in the hallway, my heart slowing down in that weird, instinctive way it does when something feels off. My apartment was on the 3rd floor of a secured building. You needed a key fob just to get inside, and the locks were new. I was proud of that place. It was the first thing I'd ever had that was completely mine. I walked in slowly. The lights were off, but the couch cushions were rearranged. A wine glass sat on the coffee table, mine, but dirty. The TV remote was in a different spot, and the throw blanket my mom had given me was folded the wrong way. Someone had been there. I checked the bedroom. My closet door was open. One of my jackets was missing. That was when I whispered her name out loud. Emily. My older sister had always had a way of treating my life like a shared resource. Growing up, she was the loud one, the dramatic one, the one who could talk her way out of anything. Our parents adored her. Teachers excused her. Friends orbited around her chaos. And I cleaned up after her. When I called her that night, she didn't even deny it. "Oh my God," she laughed, like I'd accused her of eating the last cookie. "Relax, I borrowed a jacket. You weren't answering your phone." "You were in my apartment," I said, without asking. "You gave me a spare key years ago." "That was for emergencies." "Well, I needed it." I wanted to ask why, but I already knew the answer. Emily always needed something: money, attention, a place to crash, a favor she'd never repay. "Don't do it again," I said. She scoffed. "You're being dramatic." That was the word she always used when I asked for basic respect. After that, things started going missing. At first, it was small: a bottle of perfume, cash from my nightstand, food disappearing from the fridge faster than it should have. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it. Stress does weird things to your memory. Then one Saturday morning, I came out of the shower to find a stranger sitting on my couch. He looked up at me like I was the one intruding. Hey," he said. "Emily said I could wait here." I was wearing a towel. My apartment door was unlocked. Emily wasn't there. I don't remember yelling, but I remember my throat burning and my hands shaking. The guy left quickly, muttering apologies, and when Emily finally answered her phone an hour later, she sounded annoyed. "Why are you freaking out?" she asked. "I was just showing him the place." "Showing him my apartment." "You're not even home most of the day. It's basically empty." That sentence stayed with me. Basically empty. Like I didn't exist in my own space. That night, I changed the locks. I didn't tell her. For about 2 weeks, things were quiet. I slept better. I stopped checking my closets every time I came home. I thought stupidly that maybe she'd finally gotten the message. Then I found the note. It was stuck to my fridge with a heart-shaped magnet from my childhood. "Got in anyway. You should really stop being so uptight. Love you." My stomach dropped. Nothing was missing this time. Instead, things were moved. My laptop was open. My bathroom trash had been taken out. My bed looked like someone had sat on it. She wasn't stealing anymore. She was occupying. I bought a small security camera that night. Nothing fancy, just something to reassure myself that I wasn't losing my mind. I installed it in the corner of the living room. I wish I hadn't watched the footage. The next afternoon, while I was at work, my phone buzzed with a notification. Motion detected. I tapped the live feed. Emily walked into my apartment like she owned it. She had a new key. I watched her open my fridge, drink straight from the bottle of orange juice, flop onto my couch, and make a phone call. Yeah, she said casually, kicking off her shoes. She's never home, it's perfect. I felt something crack inside me. Not anger, not fear. Clarity. I confronted her that night with the footage. I expected denial, tears, maybe even an apology. Instead, she smiled. You put cameras in your apartment, she said. That's creepy. You made a copy of my key. So you broke into my home. She crossed her arms. You're my sister. Like that explained everything. I told her if she ever came back without permission, I'd call the police. She laughed so hard she had to sit down. You wouldn't. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. She didn't think I was capable of protecting myself. The final straw came 2 weeks later. I came home early from work, headache, plans canceled, and heard voices inside my apartment. Music was playing. My door was unlocked. I stood there in the hallway, heart pounding, and listened as Emily laughed from inside. She had people over. In my apartment, something inside me went cold. I didn't go in. I didn't yell. I walked back down the stairs, got in my car, and sat there shaking until my breathing slowed. Then I made a decision. If she thought my life was an open door, I was going to close it so completely she'd walk straight into a wall. I stopped confronting her. I stopped arguing. I started planning. Over the next month, I quietly did everything she never noticed, because she never really looked at me. I found a new apartment across town, different building, different name on the lease. I scheduled movers for a weekday afternoon when she'd be at work. I forwarded my mail. I changed my phone number. I told no one in my family. I left the old apartment exactly the way she liked it, cozy, familiar, predictable. And then I waited. Because Emily didn't just sneak into my apartment anymore. She treated it like a second home. And when I disappeared, she was going to walk in expecting comfort. Instead, she was going to meet consequences. I moved out on a Wednesday. I remember that clearly because it was raining, the kind of slow, gray drizzle that makes everything feel quieter than it really is. The movers worked fast. No small talk, no neighbors watching. I paid extra for discretion. By 2:17 p.m., my old apartment was empty. Not cleaned, not staged. Just abandoned. I left the couch. I left the dining table. I left the throw blanket my mom gave me. I even left the heart-shaped magnet on the fridge. Because Emily never noticed what mattered. She only noticed what was there. I watched everything unfold from somewhere she'd never think to look. My new apartment was smaller but brighter. 4th floor. Different part of the city. New locks. New security system, this one professionally installed with multiple cameras and cloud storage. I sat on the floor with my laptop that Friday night, a glass of wine in my hand, watching the live feed from my old apartment. Yes, I'd kept the camera. I'd transferred ownership to myself before moving out, informed the landlord that I'd vacated early, and most importantly, removed my name from everything connected to that unit. Legally, it was no longer my problem. But Emily didn't know that. At 8:43 p.m., the motion alert went off. There she was. She walked in like always, key out, confident, entitled. She kicked off her shoes, tossed her purse onto the table, and froze. The apartment echoed. She frowned. Hello, she called. No answer. She walked deeper inside, heels clicking on the hardwood, confusion slowly replacing arrogance. Very funny, she muttered. You redecorating or something. She opened the fridge. Empty. The cabinets. Empty. Her smile disappeared. She pulled out her phone and called me. This number is no longer in service. I watched her try again and again. Then she started packing. I could almost hear her thoughts. Where is she? What is this? Emily had never handled uncertainty well. She went into the bedroom. Nothing. No clothes, no bed, no personal items. She stood there for a long moment, staring at the bare walls. Then she laughed. A sharp, brittle sound. She's bluffing, she said to herself. She's always dramatic. She sat on the floor and lit a cigarette. That was when everything changed. The neighbor downstairs was a retired woman named Mrs. Calder. Quiet, observant, the kind of person Emily never noticed because she wasn't loud or useful. Mrs. Calder noticed the cigarette smoke. She noticed the unfamiliar voices over the past few weeks, the late nights, the music. And she noticed Emily unlocking a door to an apartment she knew was supposed to be vacant. So she called the police. I didn't have to. The knock came at 9:12 p.m. Emily jumped, panic flashing across her face. She hesitated, then opened the door halfway. Yes. Ma'am, an officer said, calm but firm. We received a report of someone trespassing in this unit. Emily laughed. Oh my God, this again, my sister lives here. Can we see some ID? The second officer asked. She handed it over, still smiling. They asked for proof of residency. A lease. A utility bill. Anything. Her smile faded. Well, she's not home right now, Emily said, but she lets me stay here. The officers exchanged a look. We spoke with the landlord, one said. This apartment has been vacant since Wednesday. Emily's face drained of color. That's not possible. Do you have permission to be here tonight? Silence. Ma'am, the officer continued, how did you gain access to the unit? Emily hesitated. Then she did what she always did when cornered. She lied. She gave me a key. I leaned closer to the screen. The officer nodded slowly. And when was the last time you spoke to her? Emily swallowed. A few days ago. Another lie. They asked her to step outside. She refused. They asked again. She raised her voice. And just like that, just like every moment in her life where she pushed too far, control slipped through her fingers. Emily was arrested for unlawful entry and trespassing. She screamed when they put the cuffs on. She cried when they walked her past Mrs. Calder's door. She begged when they put her in the back of the cruiser. I watched the entire thing in silence. No satisfaction. No joy. Just a deep, steady calm. My phone rang the next morning. Mom, what did you do? She demanded before I could even say hello. I moved, I said. You let your sister get arrested. She broke into an apartment that wasn't hers. She thought she had permission. No, I said quietly. She thought she had control. There was a long pause. Then my dad spoke for the first time. Why didn't you tell us it was this bad? I almost laughed. I had. For years. Emily was released later that day. No charges pressed yet, but she was officially warned, documented. Her name was now attached to a police report. For the first time in her life, consequences existed. She tried to contact me. Through friends, through family, through social media accounts she didn't know I'd blocked. Finally, she sent an email. Subject, how could you? The message was long, angry, blaming. You embarrassed me. You overreacted. You're my sister. You ruined my life. I read it once. Then I deleted it. Weeks passed. Then months. Emily stopped trying to reach me. Family gatherings became quieter, tense, different. But something unexpected happened. People stopped asking me to apologize. They started asking me how I was. I slept better. I stopped jumping when I heard footsteps outside my door. My home became mine again. The last time I saw Emily was at a cousin's wedding. She stayed on the other side of the room. When our eyes met, there was something new in her expression. Not anger. Not entitlement. Distance. Fear. And finally, respect. I didn't smile. I didn't wave. I simply turned away. Because revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's disappearing so completely that the person who took you for granted finally has to face the world without you cushioning their fall. And this time, I let the police handle it.